Awesome. Well, thank you for coming today. I'm really excited to talk to you about NIH training opportunities. My name is Lori Conlan. I'm the Deputy Director of the Office of Intramural Training and Education. So that is at the NIH on NIH's campuses, mostly in Bethesda, Maryland. And it's about the science that kind of happens here. A little bit of background of who I am and why I've giving this talk is I am a Michigan State alumni. I graduated back in 1996 from the biochemistry department, which I think now has a brand new name, but it was the biochemistry department back then. And the experiences that I had doing research while at Michigan State were really what led me to move on and be a scientist. So after Michigan State, I ended up doing my PhD in biochemistry and biophysics down in Texas at Texas A&M University. And then I did a postdoc, and then I moved into science administration. And now I'm really focused on helping the next generation of scientists really think about what opportunities are out there and what best fits them. Not what best fits what everybody thinks you should do, but what you think you should do. So today we're going to talk about opportunities to come and do research at NIH, so the National Institutes of Health. So who are we and what are we? So we're actually a federal organization. So we're a government agency. We're the National Institutes of Health. It's actually broken up into 27 different compartments, kind of like states that are all together as part of the National Institute of Health. And the states, called institutes and centers, are really focused on either a disease or an organ system. So there's the National Institute of Diabetes, Digestive, and Kidney, or the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, or the National Cancer Institute, or the National Institute of Dental and Craniofacial Research. So it's really the whole human body is taken care of, and it's broken into science that kind of makes it together. So the mission of the NIH as a whole is to acquire new knowledge to prevent, detect, diagnose, and treat disease and disability worldwide. We're a really, really cool place to do science. It is all about the patient. It's all biomedical. But in the end, it's how do all of the questions that we try to answer, how do they influence the patient? So we have basic science, translational science, clinical science, so the whole spectrum. This actually happens to be a picture of our hospital. This is the NIH Clinical Center here, this picture. The clinical center is an interesting hospital. It's not a normal hospital, like there's no emergency room or anything like that. Every patient that comes to the clinical center is actually here on a clinical trial. So we are our director, Dr. Francis Collins, he's actually just gone off to the White House, but Dr. Collins calls us the Hospital of Hope. This is the place you can come if you're really interested in really changing how we treat diseases. So we've had some really amazing things for like sickle cell or cancer immunotherapy. That's a big one. The COVID vaccine, a lot of that came out of our clinical center. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple of, at the very end. We have campuses mostly in Maryland, so near Washington, D.C. We're on the subway line outside of Washington, D.C. But we also have some campuses in North Carolina, Montana. We have literally one laboratory in Michigan down in Detroit. It studies neonatal research. Massachusetts, one lab out there that studies a longitudinal study of heart disease. And one group, a pretty decent sized group out in Arizona that's looking at longitudinal studies of diabetes within the Native American population. So it's a really cool kind of broad types of science. So you may be wondering, why would you even possibly be interested in the NIH? And it's really because we have this really amazing research component. Research here at the NIH is stuff you typically can't do in an academic environment. We tend to do a little bit riskier science. We're incredibly well-resourced because we have a larger budget than most other people. The budget of the NIH as a whole is about $40 billion. And of that, we have $4 billion to do science on our campuses. So we have outstanding research in all areas. We do science education, global health partnerships, and really one of our focuses in the intramural training community, which is what we're going to talk about mostly today, is developing research skills for trainees and also making sure that young trainees have the professional, career, and personal development that they need to be the leaders of the biomedical workforce of tomorrow. We have amazing resources, comprehensive career education, career advancement, and wellness and resilience programs for our trainees. So it's a really lovely community to really stretch your scientific wings. Today, I'm talking about programs that are specifically for those of you who are at the undergraduate level. So here in the circle. So I'm going to talk mostly today about the summer internship program, the postbac program, and I'll also talk a little bit about the undergraduate scholarship program. But note that there's all these other programs as you age in your scientific career that you may want to think about coming to the NIH as different parts of your life. So whether if you go to med school and you want to do some clinical electives, if you want to go to grad school, we can come here. We have the largest postdoc population in the nation, clinical fellows, et cetera. But today we're going to talk about these specific programs. So the reason I wanted to come in early February and talk to you is because our summer internship program is open right now for applications, and it closes on March 1st. So now is the time to start applying for our summer internship. These are usually 8 to 10 weeks full-time research experiences where you will come to the NIH and do your research. So that is for you in college, you'd come and hang out with us. These are paid internships, so you get paid to come here. They run about between, depending on how long you've been in college, between $2,500 to $2,800 is your stipend per month. So, about $5,000 if you're here for 8 weeks. You do have to be a US citizen or a permanent resident to be part of this program. And the applications are accepted from mid-November, obviously as passed, until March 1st. So that's coming up really fast. We're going to talk a lot about how to apply in the next couple of slides. My whole thing today is the secrets to applications. One of the interesting things about this is that the selection process happens at the PI level. And I see a really great question in the chat about, do you need previous undergrad experience? Not necessarily. You can spin, especially for the summer internship program, you can spin things you've learned in coursework, Dr. Bowlby's biochemistry class and things like that. So you can spin that and still get a really great experience. For the postbac, it's handy to have that, a little bit of research experience as an undergraduate. We'll talk about postbacs next, but it's not necessary. So I think the big thing, and I'm gonna discuss this a lot, is that the selection process happens at the PI level. Unlike any other program that you've ever done, there's no centralized committee who is selecting summer interns. It's all done by the individual faculty members. So it's kind of like each faculty member is a small business. And I'll give you some hints as we go through on how to make those connections with individual faculty members or PIs, principal investigators. There are a few remember those smaller states, right? So NHLBI, heart, lung, and blood, et cetera. There are some IC-sponsored additional programs, and the list is actually here in this link. And I'll share these slides with Heidi, and she'll be able to share them with you. So NCATS, NHGRI, these have some additional summer internship programs. But the large summer internship program, this one, is the bulk of our summer interns. We have about 1,200 summer interns usually. So there's a lot of summer interns on campus. They're very active and they are a lot of fun. And if you come over the summer as a Michigan State student, if you get here and you're here, I will treat you to ice. Oh, you didn't hear me say that. Okay. The other program I wanted to talk about is for once you finish your undergraduate degree. Okay, so if you are finishing your undergraduate degree and you're trying to maybe think of a couple of gap years, get some research experience, and think about going to medical school or potentially graduate school, I want to let you know that the NIH has a postbac program that you're welcome to apply for. It's 1 or 2 years, sometimes up to 3 years. Again, it's full-time. It is paid, and it's on all NIH campuses. It's about $35,000 to $41,000 per year is your stipend, and it will also include health insurance if you need it. Again, you do need US citizenship or permanent residency, and applications are accepted year-round. There's no open or shut application time period, but most postbacs begin in June. So basically you graduate in May and you'll start in June or July, right? Take some time off and then move to the NIH and start your research experiences. And we're going to talk about what the benefits of both of these programs are in order to help you along your career journey. And again, the selection for this happens at the faculty level. There is a centralized application, but each faculty member picks their own postbac. It is so, if you leave with nothing else, that's what I want you to leave with today. We have two really cool programs that are part of this postbac program. One is the NIH Academy. This is all postbacs who come to the NIH can join the NIH Academy and focus on how health disparities really influence health outcomes. And so it is a program that is above and beyond your full-time research experience. And you do a lot of learning about how health disparities influence health outcomes. It's a phenomenal program. And then for those of you who are from diverse backgrounds, or maybe don't have the chance to get all the experiences you need in order to get here to the NIH, the OITE PEP program, and both of these are hyperlinked, and you can look at these later, is a central program that provides more foundational support for those students who need a little extra help. Okay, so summer interns and postbacs. That's the two big programs I really want to talk about. Remember, summer interns are here for 8 to 10 weeks in the summer. Postbacs are here for full years after you finish college. 1 to 2 years is what most people are looking at. And those programs, the type of science that you can do in the intramural research program can be basic bench science, can be epidemiology, it can be clinical. So for those of you who are potentially thinking about med school in the future, a lot of our postbacs participate in clinical research that happens here at the NIH. In addition to this amazing science you'll get to do, we do a lot of educational programming to help you along the way. We have a full team dedicated to helping you get to either graduate school or professional school. So that would be med school, dental school, DVM, et cetera. So we have a full team that helps you with that and has pre-professional, pre-med advisors, et cetera. We have career development and also science skills. So how do you build that resume? How do you interview? How do you give a better scientific talk? Things like that. We provide all that kind of education. There is no formal coursework here. This is just things that you decide that you need and want to participate in. Additionally, one of the coolest things that we've done here at the NIH is we've really kind of seen how the mental health struggles of the biomedical workforce have kind of really, especially post-pandemic, have really gotten critical. And so we have this amazing resilience and wellness program with support for you, and a leadership program to help you be those leaders. How do you deal with conflict, et cetera, and training to be a mentor in the future. If you're here in the summer, we have journal clubs to help you learn how to read a scientific paper. These journal clubs are really fun. Some of them have great names. My husband, who's also a scientist here at the NIH, ran one last year called Microbes and Why They're Trying to Kill You. And then we also, for postbacs, have talk practice. There's lots of networking opportunities and a couple of major events, poster days for both groups, and the NIH Graduate and Professional School Fair, where schools from around the nation come to the NIH to recruit you. It's a traditional career fair type thing, but it's how to go to med school or grad school or something like that. Awesome. Okay. So the next thing that we want to know, you've already figured out this is the most amazing place, right? And you want to come. How do you get here? The selection process this is for both SIP, so summer internship program, and also for the postbacs. Again, all the individual investigators, principal investigators / faculty, whatever you want to call them, make their own selections. There is an online application. We're going to talk about that next. Some investigators are pretty good about going in and selecting people from that, but not all of them are. So there is another component where you should contact NIH investigators directly. We'll talk a lot more about that in a couple of slides. So you'll apply, you'll connect with investigators, you'll get interviewed either by Zoom, phone, or in person, depends on the lab, and then offers can be made at any time. Summer interns usually start around June 1st, and they, again, are here for 8 to 10 weeks. Same thing, most postbacs start in the summer after they graduate in May. Now, this online application that has to happen, You have to apply online, but then also directly connect with investigators. So make sure that you're eligible. You have to make sure you can pass a federal background check. And there's a lot of information about that on our website. There's a great video on how to apply, some frequently asked questions, and a guide to writing successful applications. We know investigators are short attention spans. I like to say they have the attention span of a Drosophila. So make sure that everything is easy for them to read, grammatically correct, well organized, clear, etc. Okay. And if you have any questions about the process, you can always email this email address down here. So the first thing that you're going to have in this online application system is a cover letter. This cover letter needs to be generic enough because it's not going to a specific PI. It's just in the system, right? And you need to convince, in general, that you're a good fit for their research group. So if you have research experiences or what you learned in your lab classes, that's where you'll describe that a little bit. Why you want to come to the NIH is super important, and how this is going to help you along your career. It's really short, like 2 paragraphs at the max. It doesn't need to be short and sweet. And ways to make this kind of generic so it appeals to many different faculty members and PIs. I'm broadly interested in cancer biology and wish to learn more. Although I'm interested in studying prostate cancer, I'll do anything, right? So that is a great way to write this. Or this one here. I enjoy pursuing heart disease research, and thinking about bench to bedside research is more important than specific research area. Gives you a chance to kind of really look broadly. Not this, I want to study prostate cancer in mouse models. It narrows it down too much, and that investigator may or may not be in the database looking for people. And you want to broaden it a little bit, because for the most part, you're here to learn things, not necessarily study something really specific. Or this one's also a no-no. I want to do research before going to med school. Yes, we know that, but you don't necessarily have to be quite so dramatic about it in your application. Okay, so the cover letter, making in this application system be pretty generic. The next one is your resume. Your resume, the Career Center at Michigan State can help you with all of these documents, by the way, if you need help with these. So your resume should have contact information, the schools that you attended. We really only need college. We don't need to know that you went to high school at Wesleyan John Glenn. Like, we don't need to know that. We need just to know your college stuff. If you had any honors or awards while you're there, if you have had some research experience or any other work experience. There's a lot of other things many of us do while we're at state, whether you're doing campus tours, or maybe you're part of student government, or maybe you're an RA, or maybe you work at the front desk of your dorm and things like that. All of that is perfectly fine for us to hear about. And if you have any leadership things, those are also really nice to put in this resume. The resume here doesn't need to be super tailored. It's very much in the back end, and it's really just a clear and concise way to get the information out that they can see that you could be a good addition to your to their research group. Okay, then the last part of your package is a couple of letters of recommendation. The system will alert a letter of recommendation person that they need to upload their letter. You will never see this. That's pretty common. You guys know that by now. You really should do this from professors who know you pretty well and can address your scientific knowledge and your personal traits, right? It can be a boss from someone outside of, I actually try to keep it from the scientific community, especially at the summer intern and postbac level. If you can keep it from the scientific community, maybe that's a TA, it could be a professor, etc. They should never, ever, 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 ever be from family and friends. Like, that's not what we want. This is time to start building the letters of recommendation of a professional basis. Okay, so we've got this online application into the portal that has to go, right? You have to have the portal done in order for this to happen. And some labs do actually use the portal. So my husband's lab uses the portal all the time. They're searching for specific keywords. For them, it's bioinformatics, computer science, coding, et cetera, et cetera. Other labs search for other things. Some labs do gatekeeping based on GPA, some labs don't. So it's really just all over the place. And I can't tell you what they're looking for and what they're not, because it's like holistic review, right? It's very hard to pen down what they're actually looking for. But after you get this online application done, whether you're coming for the summer or for a full postbac, now you need to connect with PIs / faculty members / mentors, whatever you want to call them. You should be sending like 10 to 15 emails to research groups that interest you directly to the boss. Dear Dr. Conlan, I'd like to join your lab, right? So that kind of thing. Introduce yourself. Dear Dr. Conlan, I am currently a senior or a junior, whatever you are, at Michigan State University studying biochemistry. And then the program you've applied to. I've applied to the summer internship program through the online portal. Then this is the hard ones. You need to express an interest in their work. So that means you need to at least know what they've done. One of the things that PIs tell me all the time is that they won't read things if it looks like a generic email. It has to be tailored to them. So I see that you do research on group 2 introns and how they move into new locations. I see also that this is really important in human diseases. I'm really interested in learning about how bacterial systems can be modeled towards human systems, right? So using kind of a little bit of an interest in their work. And then you can mention any research experience. So as an undergrad, I did research in Dr. Wells's lab looking at ascorbic, blah, 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 blah. If you are in a research group now, have your graduate student that you're hanging out with help you write this letter to a PI or your PI that you're working with now. It's super helpful because they read these all the time and they know what gets people's attention and what doesn't. The other thing with this is that if you don't hear back from that faculty member, it is perfectly fine to email them again in about 2 weeks and say, I hope this didn't get lost in your email. I'm still really interested in your group. If you don't hear back and this is still the lab you want to go, 1 month later, you can try one more time. After that, you become a stalker and nobody really wants that. But don't feel bad emailing them a couple times. What happens in many of us who get up into this professional sphere is that if it's not at the top of our email box, we forget about it. It's not that we don't want you. It's just we forgot you got an email from you. It has nothing to do with how much we want you or not. So connect with them again. In order to find research labs and mentors, there's some thoughts here, a video on how to find your research home at the NIH, some information here with a tutorial on how to search our scientific disciplines, etc. So we have 1,200 faculty members, so it can be incredibly daunting. Usually try to do it by keyword or start narrowing, like you want to study cancer, but cancer's too big. What kind of cancers? And start narrowing it down from there. All right, just to make sure we all are on the same page. The secret steps to applying are apply to the online system, but don't rely on that to get you in because it's no centralized selection. Connect directly with faculty members / investigators. Interview wisely. We're going to talk on the next slide about how to interview well, and then come here and succeed and be awesome. Okay, the interview. You're likely going to be asked, probably going to be by Zoom nowadays, let's be honest. They're going to ask you about your previous research experiences, what techniques you know, why their particular research group interests you, and the career goals you have and how long you plan to be there, whether it's a summer or a postbac, etc. You should also ask, what have you had past postbacs or summer interns, and what are they doing now? Who's going to be your daily supervisor? It's not going to be the PI. It's likely going to be a graduate student or a postdoc. And so who will that be? What are some potential projects? And any other questions you have are great ways to ask questions during the interview. All right, so that is really about the postbac program and the summer internship program. And I really, really do hope some of you come here to do some of your training at the NIH. We're actually thinking about building a network of Michigan State folks. I have a lot of Michigan State alumni who work here in not only at the NIH, but also across the DC area. And we're planning things if we get more summer interns from Michigan State to do things as a group to kind of mentor you through. I wanted to also highlight one additional program that is currently open for applications, again, up until March. This is our undergraduate scholarship program. It provides money for you to go to school now at Michigan State with a service component payback to the NIH. So The UGSP, Undergraduate Scholarship Program, provides scholarships for those of you from financially disadvantaged backgrounds who are also committed to the health-related science. So y'all gotta be science-related and health sciences and from a financially disadvantaged background. This program provides up to $20,000 a year to cover your educational expenses for you at your undergraduate level. So that money can go to pay your tuition, your room and board, etc. The eligibility is, again, you must be a US citizen or permanent resident, a GPA of a 3.3, exceptional financial need, and there's information on our website about what that means, and a major in that side, basically. At the end of in your payback service is that you, as a UGSP scholar, will participate in the summer internship. You will get paid to come here and do that. And then for every year you accept the scholarship, so you can have it for all 4 years. Most people take it for 2 years. But for every year that you have this scholarship, you owe the NIH a year in return. So you would come and work to the NIH as a full-time employee for 2 years to do your service payback. It is a phenomenal program for those of you who do have exceptional financial need. All right, just a few more things, and I'll open it up to a few questions. So when should you begin? If you want the postbacs or summer intern, when should you begin the process? For postbacs, about 6 to 8 months before you graduate. So if you're graduating in May, June, now is perfect time. In the summer intern, anytime from when it opens up in November through March. And then probably they'll still be accepting people into April. Hey, why didn't anybody call me about this position? I don't know if I'm selected or not. Well, remember, there's no centralized selection. You have to connect directly with the PIs and the faculty members, and feel free to follow up with them if they don't respond. How many investigators should you reach out to? About 10 to 15 is a good start. And unfortunately, international students are not eligible. So there's all kinds of information. The NIH does care about you. There's lots of health information for you, your family, clinicaltrials.gov, etc. Our website has a lot of training.nih.gov, has training opportunities. You can find more information about all these opportunities there. We have a YouTube page, a blog. We're not really on Twitter at the moment. And then I'm more than happy to help any of you if you are pondering coming to the NIH. So that's what I had for you today. If you have any questions, I'll happily answer them. Yeah, Lee.
Hi there. So I'm Lane, and I'm a senior here at Michigan State. And I've just recently heard about like the NIH, and I became incredibly interested in applying for the summer internship. But also, since I'm a senior, I'm thinking about pursuing a post-bac. And with your opinion, is it okay to apply for both, or? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so go ahead and apply for both, and you can tell potential labs I've applied for the summer internship and the post-bac program, and they can decide when to bring you in. Push for the post-bac, it pays better.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Jeannie in the chat has asked, you get to pick which lab. Remember, you don't get fully accepted. You get to figure out which lab you're going to go to, right? So if you want to go, the Detroit lab probably doesn't even have any summer interns. If they do, I don't even think they do. They may have a post-bac, but I don't even know if they have that. But if you wanted to go to Arizona, you should reach out to those labs in Arizona. I think the hardest part about this, it's the first time in your entire academic career that there's no centralized system. There's no one going in and saying, we're going to pick Lean, Suzu, Connor, and Gina. Those are our 5 people this year. There's nothing like that. Each lab does their own, and it's like each lab runs as a small independent business. And so you kind of have to go after each one of them individually. It's silly, I know, but that's the scientific system. If you were a postdoc, you finished your PhD, that's exactly how postdocs find their labs. So if you do know someone who's a graduate student or a postdoc who has gone through that process, it's very similar, and you can ask them for guidance. It's a great question, though. But I doubt the Detroit lab is so small. It's like 5 people that I doubt that they have very many internship opportunities. Most of y'all, and plus, don't you want to come to DC? It's great. Any other questions? Heidi, do you have any questions?
I don't have any particular questions. I think this was a great experience to learn. I learned so much that I didn't know as well. Are you comfortable with us posting this
Absolutely.
presentation and the recording?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'll send you the slide. Actually, maybe if I close them, I can send them to you in the chat. I got to close it. It won't let me attach things into the chat that are currently open. You know how that is, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Oh, it doesn't.
Okay. For the students that are listening today, if you are willing, you can throw your email into the chat and I will collect those up and I will send things to you directly, as well as getting it posted on the web, but I can email things to you directly.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys coming today. Also tell your friends, like, hey, this crazy lady from the NIH came and talked about this program. Like, right? Like, please, like, yeah, I doubt, remember, I don't think that the Detroit lab is going to have anything. But remember, they're too small. I doubt they're going to have anything. But you would find that on the investigator database. So in the slides, there's the list of the investigator database. And you can just type in, you know, location Detroit, and it'll come up from there. But don't count on that one. It really is likely not an option because it's just too small. I'm sorry. I wish I had a better answer there because I know it's like right down the street, but it's too small.
Come up with a question. Housing for folks. Are there? I know obviously there's not provided housing, but
Correct.
Are there housing guides or
Yes.
particular
Yep,
people that you can point students to find housing? Because obviously it'd be limited time housing.
Yeah, we do have some guide into providing housing, and some there's a couple of groups that kind of get together and like try to find roommate shares and stuff like that. There is some guidance for housing.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. Well, everyone, I really appreciate you spending a half hour with me today. You are all now instructed to go to the dairy store and buy an ice cream cone for yourself because you came to something you didn't have to. And by the way, I have one for me because I can't get there today. All right. Heidi, I'll send you the slides. I really appreciate it. And again, if any of you guys get here, please, please, please let me know and I'll take you out for ice cream here, but it won't be as good. All right.